Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Thursday. It's December 12th. This will be our chart lesson for today, and it is Thursday, so this will wrap up our week. No chart lessons on Fridays. Um, I like to try to get out of here by noon on Fridays, so um, for that reason, I stopped doing chart lessons, except for Monday through Thursday. One time I did them 5 days a week, but there's a lot of work that goes into this. I've said this a few times, and if you've heard it before, just bear with me because we always have new people coming in and people that haven't heard it, and they send me emails wanting to know why I don't do one on Friday. So I like to just tell people from time to time that this takes anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours a day of my time to do this video. So there's a lot that goes into doing one of these videos. It seems like it's something simple. You can record it real quick and throw it up, but it's just not that easy. It takes me 15 to 30 minutes to record it. Then I have to process it, and then I have to upload it, and it just takes a little time. I will say with my new internet that I'm getting 1,000. I just recently upgraded my internet, and I get 1,000 gigs of upload, and same thing download. Or download is what you're usually using when you're using your computer, but I get 1,000 gigs of upload also as the way I should have said that. And man, does it make a difference. I can used to sometimes it'd take 30 minutes to upload the video. Well, now usually by the time I get through clicking all the boxes for YouTube, the video's already uploaded now. So that's really made a big difference and made it much easier for me. So if you get a chance to upgrade your internet, I'd highly recommend you do it, especially if you upload and download a lot of stuff that takes a lot of time, files and things like that, because the extra speed and um, it really makes a difference. So anyway, let's get to the chart lesson. I'm not going to beat around the bush today. It's after 5 o'clock and I'm ready to go home. So, but that's why I don't do them on Friday anymore. It just got to be after years and years of doing them 5 days a week. It just became too much. And I do like to leave early on Fridays, and that means I have to hang around till 2:30 till after the market closes. Then I'm probably not getting out of here till 5 or 5:30 on Fridays, even if I do it right away after 2:30. So for that reason, I don't do chart lessons on Fridays. But let's get to the chart list. You can see we had another down day today. It's after 5, so the next day is open. We're into Mars bar here during the overnight session, and so we had another bearish day. Just an inside bar though. We didn't make a new high. We didn't make a new low. We did close lower. So there's that. It looked like we were going to have a range day, but prices broke lower, and there was a gap on the chart, and prices did go up and fill that gap, and lo and behold, where did they turn down? Where was the high of the day? Right at that overnight high, or right at that where that gap was where we closed yesterday. So anytime we have those gaps, generally prices are going to fill those gaps, and not always, it's not 100%, but most of the time they're going to at least attempt to fill those gaps. And a lot of times they will fill them. And as soon as they filled that gap, prices turned down and they traded down pretty much for the rest of the day. So we almost closed on our low here. So pay attention to that. But yeah, it's a um, we closed lower today. We did make a higher low and a lower high than we did yesterday. So we've got an inside bar. Right now we're working on the inside bar for tomorrow. That'll change considerably, so we don't care much about that at this point. I just thought I'd point it out. But will we go higher tomorrow or down or sideways? Probably a good chance we go sideways some, no matter what happens. Will we make another low? I don't. I have no idea what to expect. I would say the path of least resistance you would think would be down, because we did just come off the high of the channel here. But we're not overbought or anything. We've relieved most of that overbought. Well, you have to get up in this upper two bands before you're really overbought, and we're not overbought at all now. So there's room to go higher. Although I would say the chart's telling us eventually we're going to go lower first. So I'm not sure what to expect. We're coming into the holidays, things are going to get slow, so we may just work sideways. That may be what happens. We may continue to work sideways. We'll just have to see. We'll see what tomorrow brings, and we'll go from there. Um, but just look at this chart. You would think we were going to make a correction here soon. So Anyway, let's flip over to the 2,000 tick chart. We'll take a look at today's chart the way I saw it. We'll go through the trades. Not a lot of them again. Just not a lot of setups. It's just the market's just kind of slow right now. And even when it's moving, there's not a lot of setups. It's just like the market reverses and goes. And we don't get a lot of setups, and it is what it is. I mean, I'm not there are setups, but there's just not as many as you would think with the nice moves we're having. And a lot of times there's a good move and there's just no way to get in it, and we just have to watch it go without us. That's the way it works. So if you're a seasoned trader and you're disciplined and you're making money, then you know what I'm talking about. But let's flip over to the other chart. And here it is, and you can see we traded down into this what I would call sideways. We had this PPI and unemployment claims this morning, and the market sold off on that and then recovered. Notice we opened right here at 8:30 and went lower from that. So that left from the close at yesterday is up here. This blue line. It's not really a blue line. The reason it looks blue is because that happens to be the measured move as well up from where I had my channel this morning. And it's amazing when you see it. When you get a measured move or something that comes right out to a target like that, pay attention to it, because look, we went to it almost to the tick and turned down and then went. And notice where we turned up this morning right off another measured move. So we're not quite where. Trying to get this back where I had it. I think I had it on these closes right across there. So anyway, pay attention to those measured moves, especially when they line up with some other target that we have, like the overnight highs, the overnight lows, the close from yesterday, the open from today, or something like that. So, but anyway, you can see there, it looked like we were going to work sideways. We failed out the bottom, reversed, filled that gap, and we bounced off the low there. It looked like we were going to try to work higher again, and suddenly the bottom fell out after lunch. And then after 2:30, we dropped on down even some more. We came off the low just a little at the close, and we've gapped higher right now. So my guess is they'll fill that gap before prices take off or go any other direction. Now we did have 7:30 news this morning again. The unemployment CPI, I did mark that out. So you really couldn't take a trade this morning until after that news item. So it's going to be after 7:30, and really by about, well, right in here somewhere by 7:45 or so, the market had kind of settled back down. But we got a break. We actually had a break before the news, and then we had a break and a move to a new low. And then it looked like we were going to rally out of here and just kind of ended up going sideways. But notice the green channel working up. You get a close outside. There's actually two legs up to a new high. There's a second entry long here, but it's just sideways and congested. And you're coming out of that news, so I just kind of sit tight and wait and see what happens. And of course, you do make two legs up to a new high, and then you turn down, you get a channel going up, you get a close outside, a move to a new low, and a break above that bar right there, which is also, you could argue, is a triple test. It's a second entry long, and prices run up, and we push it a little higher here. At this point, you don't really have this range going on. This kind of formed after about 8:30 or so. You could kind of, really by 9 o'clock, you were starting to get a feel. Really across here, first I had this low up across here. So really, as this started to form, it looked like we may be going to form a range, and then it kind of opened up just a little more. So I think the lows of the range were, and you can see we bounced there again later on. But I like that second entry long. And you run up here and you get a first entry and then a second entry there. I don't think you can enter. You get a close and a new high all in once, but it's just a first entry. Maybe you argue there's a hidden second entry in there, but I'd wait on the second entry low, because there's a good chance you may get two measured legs here, and you would have a little bit more room to go here. And so I'm a little wary of going short there yet. You do get the lower high. Unfortunately, you don't get a signal bar. If this bar here would have looked like this one, I'd say go short there, but it doesn't, and you end up getting this This is just a continuation here. But notice what happens. You get a first entry and then a second entry right there, and then you get another touch here. So now you got 1, 2, 3. You got at least a triple test. You might even argue that that's a multiple test there. But there was a second entry right here. Notice first entry, and then it breaks higher right there. And you do get a new low, a close outside and a new low. So that's a second entry after a close outside and a new low. And that's definitely a triple test right there. And then you get another test right here. So I like just treating that similar, even though it makes a little lower low there. Look at all that stem, and it closes about the same place. It actually trends higher there. If it breaks above that, it's probably going higher. It's starting to look congested here, so I did mark that one green, but you still may want to take that trade. It looks like there's strong support there, and the problem is you're not getting real rejection. Maybe you will off this bar, but it's not really proven there. So if I didn't enter here, I don't know that I'd take that one, but it's a possibility. It could fail on you though, so just understand that. And you get another bounce here, but no signal bar. And then finally you get another bounce and you get a good signal bar. Just go along there. We did turn down here on a lower high, but I think by now your highs were kind of more along here, and this looks like a failed breakout. So I'd want a lower high, and it actually goes higher here. So I don't think you want to go short there. I wouldn't take that short. And then we get a little trend down, close outside, and move to a new low. You do get a decent signal bar here, but notice how it makes a 2-bar matching high. We're just kind of working sideways. It's not really getting rejection there. You could treat it like a failed breakout because you do have all the support here. So it's another one that maybe you could argue for. I just think you have to skip it because we're not getting rejection there. It does end up taking off. It's just a first entry down, and then we're just chopping along again. And here's a good indication. Well, we didn't break above that one, but if prices would have broke one tick higher and turned down, you have congestion there. So it's just not a good, you're not getting rejection there. And notice how we didn't go much higher there after we came off the low. We should have gone back up to the highs if things are kind of getting back to this support here, and it doesn't. So now we're accepting prices at a lower price here, and then it actually drops on down, which that's a good indication we're probably going to go lower if you're getting acceptance of prices down here and you're not going back to the previous highs. The market is losing momentum to the upside and gaining momentum to the downside. There's a lot of selling coming in here instead of buying now, and it ends up breaking on through. You don't get a chance to really go short there. I wouldn't go short out of that either, much less long. But you get a trend down, a close outside, a couple of swings to a new low, and we weren't quite to a measured move here. So I'm wary of going long there. Again, it's one you could argue to be green. But I think you need a higher low, which comes here. And again, we don't quite have that measured move. So this one you might argue to be blue. But most of you shouldn't be trying to pick lows, pick bottoms like this. It's just difficult to do, and most people end up losing money. So I'm going to leave it green. What I would say is see if you get a reversal pattern, which you do, but it doesn't set up properly because it needs to be on the other side of the EMA. There's not room. We've already made it back to the EMA, and there's not room there in case it turns down, which notice how it does. And it could keep going lower, but it ends up breaking higher. And you just don't get a setup to go long here. Now, it does get back in the range, and it tests it once, tests it twice. And notice the new high. That's a first entry, and then it breaks lower and turns up. So that's a second entry long. If this wasn't bouncing off the previous support low, I'd probably tell you have to ignore it. And I still marked it green, but I tend to like that if it breaks higher because it's probably going back to the highs again. And we do have this gap up here. It might even keep going because that's a fairly strong looking, even to right here, you can see that channel is holding. And it ends up running up. This turns out to be a pretty nice move. And then you close outside, a couple of moves, swings to a new high. And that's not a second entry because we don't have a new swing low here. The previous one's way down here. So it's just part of this original count. Now, you still might go short there, but when it doesn't break lower, that's not a good sign. And you see what happens. It breaks lower there and it comes back. Doesn't stop you out, but you don't know that it won't. And so, I mean, you could argue for that to be green if you want to be a little aggressive, but when it makes that 2-bar high and 2-bar low, there's a good chance that there's going to be some kind of little range or congestion there. And but we're way away from the EMA, so prices are overdue. Look how far it's been since we were at the EMA. That was at 917 or so, right in there, and here we are almost 940, and we hadn't been back to the EMA. We're way overdue. So maybe for that reason you take it, it would actually be this bar, because this one's just, they're equal. And it breaks lower, and this is what you have to be concerned about. It breaking lower and failing instantly and turning up. It could stop you out and then turn right down where you expect. That's what happens in congestion. Congestion is just a micro range, and what happens when prices break out of a range? They fail and turn back. And that's what happened here. That you got 1, 2, 3 bars, and at least one of them, actually all three of them, have nobody there or tiny bodies. That is congestion. They're not going higher and lower, they're just going sideways. And when prices break out, they fail. They end up turning down without stopping you out this time, but sometimes they'll stop you out. So that's the concern of congestion. And there's no rule that says you can't enter in congestion, because in a case like this, there's still a high probability prices are going lower, but you could get stopped out. So it's always a little bit risky. You really need to be a good chart reader and understand the chart really well to take those trades. So, but this ends up dropping on down, and it finds support here at the top of the range. And we tested a couple times on the low side, then we tested 3 times on the top and get a second entry long. If we'd have got another separate test, I'd probably, on a second entry like that, I'd probably make it blue. But again, it looks a little congested. It is a second entry. It is, the trend line's holding. Everything's above the EMA. You try to go lower once, twice, 3 times there. Maybe this one's a question mark. You need another one to really say, okay, authoritatively we had 3 tests. But I think you're good enough to go long here. There's still plenty of room to the previous high, and it just kind of takes off. You probably don't get a runner here. You probably just get a scalp out of that. And it takes off, and you don't really get another chance to enter up here. And you got to assume we're headed up here to fill this gap. And we could go higher from there, but generally this is kind of what you see. You see it sell off, and maybe it comes back later and goes higher. But it could keep going. So you want to get a good short opportunity before you go short. And so finally you get a close outside, and you don't make a new high here, but guess what? You get a triple test right at the fill in the gap. This looks like a really, really big bar, and it is really big for today. It's 14 ticks, but if you want to go short there, you could. It's a triple test. Now what I would recommend on a big bar like this is letting it break lower and dropping a limit order further back in here and letting it see if it comes back and fills you and then goes lower. Rather than going short way down here. And if it does take off without you, that's a risk you take. But you get a better entry and a whole lot less risk than, you could cut that risk in half. Instead of having 14 ticks, you can probably get in with 8 or 9 tick stop loss, which is much more reasonable in case you're wrong. But with a triple test up here at the measured, fill in the gap, there's a good chance we're going lower. So your stop has to go up here. You get a lower high here, but it looks congested. It is a second entry short too. That was tempting, but there's still a good chance it could come back up again. So I say you just have to skip that one because of the congestion. And it drops on down. At the very least, you might say, you might mark it green. It's a lower high after a triple test. This one would have been better, but the signal bar doesn't qualify, and you don't want to enter on the engulfing bar out of congestion. So simple as that. Same thing here. You get another one, and they keep having all this stem on them. It's like you can't get a good signal bar for whatever reason. It ends up going lower, but for whatever reason, these signal bars are just not very good bars. We drop back down, we get back in the range, it comes back, tests it. Oops. I can't remember exactly where that was. Yeah, that's right. And it turns lower. You can't enter short there. Then you get, this is just a first entry. Now there is a second entry here, and that's not really congestion. The problem is there's not a lot of room to low. The odds are we're probably going here, and we're probably going to make a new low, but I just think I just think it's risky. It is a lower high. It is a second entry short. And you see it took a little heat here before it goes lower. But you still might enter that trade. Then it bounces. Now that's rejection, but you don't get a good signal bar again. But that's what rejection looks like. It touches that line, reverses, and takes off. That's good rejection. And you get the same thing up here. You get rejection once again, but your signal bar is horrible. You do get a close outside and a new high, but it's just a first entry. It's a ugly signal bar, and what you hope is you get a lower high, and it doesn't come. It just, the bottom falls out again. It gets kind of choppy in here and mixed trading, and you got to be careful with that stuff. And then notice here you get a first entry, second entry, but the signal bar doesn't qualify. It looks congested again. It ends up going right where you think it might go, but it only needed to make a new low here because you've already got a close outside on this channel down. So there's not a lot of room there to risk that, even though it ends up going way much lower. And then we bounce out of there. You get a second entry short here. This one would have been tempting. I probably would have taken it, but then you get the inside bar, and I think you got to skip it. It does end up confirming the channel here, but you don't want to go long on a first entry. You might say, hey, that's a reversal pattern, but it's not really where we're looking for one. We'd be looking for it off the lows down here, not off the highs. So I don't think you want to go long there. And then it comes up here, and you might say there's a triple test here, but again, the signal bar is horrible. And you finally get a close outside. There's a second entry long right here, but you can't go long right into the highs. And you see how it fails here. I think it would have ended up getting the scalp in the end, but it's not worth risking it. And then the bottom falls out, and once again, no signal bar. I mean, all you got to do is hope that closes in the lower 1/3, and you could go short there, and you could catch a nice run down, but no such thing. It just takes off. And then you do get a close outside here and a new low. And that is a second entry long. I didn't mark that one. We have kind of bounced across there a few times, so maybe you take that trade. I'll give it a green. But I just wasn't crazy about it. I still felt like we needed to come back down here and test this low, especially after how many times we tested it up here now. And that's actually with the trap. And then you get a first entry and then a second entry. But look how congested. Look at the support across here. I didn't draw the line. Always draw your line so you can easily see this stuff. But you can see that support, and that's dangerous. And you see it does bounce there. It ends up going lower, but sometimes it'll stop you out before it goes lower. So now we got a failed break out down here and a pretty decent signal bar. So maybe you go long there. Again, the better option is to wait on a higher low, which you don't get. And then it turns down. You actually get a lower high here, but you don't want to go short right into that support. Now you might say, okay, we already kind of cleared that out. But it's never a good idea to go short here. If we were in a downtrend and went sideways for a little while, I would say, yeah, maybe you go short there. But we've been going, I mean, this has been pretty much a choppy range all day at this point. So you just can't really go short right there at this point. Of course, it breaks lower and takes off. And, of course, it gives you a good signal bar, too. So, but I just don't think you want to take it. You don't have a new high on this yet either. And it turns out to be one of the better moves today. And of course, you make a bottom, you get a close outside and a new low. That would be a second entry long. I think you could count that as a second entry. But don't try to pick a bottom right there. You need a higher low or something. I mean, that's not a perfect signal bar. Maybe it closes in the top 1/3, but it's real close. And now you got a trend up, close outside, and that's just a first entry. You might say, okay, it's a higher low, but the signal bar is not very good. It's only 4 ticks, but it doesn't close in its upper 1/3. I mean, it's another one you might say, okay, we had a failed breakout here. We're probably going to bounce, but we already had that, and then now we're going much lower, and we even went more than the measured move. But you can see we're kind of stuck across this measured move, testing it from both sides all the way into 230 before we drop lower again. And so we were kind of overdone here for the measured move. So for that reason, maybe you try that one. But then you get 2 legs up, and you get a second entry short. Notice you get the close outside, new high, turns down on the second entry, back inside the resistance there. It's good for a scalp, and it comes back, does the same thing again, but you don't get a signal bar this time. This one was tempting, but you're in this channel. No close outside. You notice you get the close outside and move to a new low. And then we're kind of bouncing across here. And again, you don't get a setup to go long, unfortunately. And then this one turns down right off the key entry point where you would expect to get an entry, but it's right into all that support. And there's too big a chance it bounces there. Notice how it does bounce there. It ends up pushing through momentarily, but it's getting late in the day, and you just can't go short into that kind of support without room to get out of it. Again, in this case, it works, but it doesn't go very far, and it's failed and comes back. And it doesn't give you a chance to go short or long out of there after that, and that takes you into 230. So kind of an oddball day. I think what we're doing is we're just we may be running out of momentum on the big rally, and or either that or people just don't really want to sell, but people aren't. We don't have a lot of buyers at this price. I'm not sure exactly what's going on here, but it's going to be something similar to that. But let's go back to the daily chart. But you can see the path of least resistance is down. We don't have a whole lot of room to the upside. Doesn't mean we can't go higher, don't get me wrong. But everything is pointing to going lower. And people just don't really want to sell this market probably. The volume continues to be a little lower. We're getting into the holidays where people are starting to square up. As the big funds start to square up and their portfolios towards the end of the year, and people are taking out, people may be selling for Christmas money. Who knows what's going on? But we may just chop sideways as the market just kind of congests. We get some consolidation on this last couple of moves up before we make another push up. Or we, according to the chart, we should be going down soon. So we just have to see what tomorrow brings. But there it is. That's how I saw it today. We've used up almost 30 minutes here, so I'm going to try to wrap this up. We'll be back again to do it Monday. I'm done for today. And again, next week is going into Christmas. I know I'm going to probably work through Wednesday. Not sure about Thursday yet. Definitely going to take Friday off. So we'll see how next week goes. I may put in a full 4 days next week for chart lessons, but I'm definitely going to take Friday off, and I'm fairly certain I'm going to take Thursday, but I might change my mind. It's supposed to be raining all next week. And if it's nasty and raining and I can't get some stuff done that I need to get done outside, then I may come in and work Thursday. It just depends. We'll play it by ear. I'll leave it at that for now. But I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it Monday. I'm done for today. I'm done for this week. Hope you have a great weekend. I'll see you next week. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.